All right, everybody, thank you for joining us. Mark and I are going to be talking through Logos 10 and how Logos 10 has survived the hype 6 or 7 months after launch. And so we have set aside just a bit of time here, and we're going to be walking through what are the most used features, the most talked about features, what people keep revisiting. And we're doing this for a couple of reasons. One, we have a massive sale going on at our website right now. And so you can get up to 25% off base packages plus extra savings for first-time upgraders, first-time purchasers. So be sure to check that out. But we also just wanted to take some time to review the basics for L10 launch and see, like I said a minute ago, see if it's actually living up to the hype. So that's where we'll be today. So thank you for joining us. Mark, thank you for joining us. Thanks for taking time to do this.
Yeah, it's fun to do this. Thanks, Jason.
Of course. So before we get rolling, before I hand it off to Mark for our first demonstration here, I need anybody who's watching live or watching the replay to jump down to the comments and let us know what your favorite features are, your favorite tools, your favorite resources, and take a second and tell us why. All right. Thanks, Mark. Or thanks, everybody. Mark, I'm going to hand it off to you now.
All right. Hey, let's take a look at my Logos screen. This is Logos 10, of course, and I'm coming to you live or not live, depending on when you're watching this, from Bellingham, Washington, in the basement. And I'm actually really excited about Logos 10 still, not just because I work for the company, but because I study the Bible all the time and teach it. And I want to tell you about a quick bit of new feature that we put into Logos 10 that I was initially skeptical about, in fact, determined that I wasn't going to use. But then I was like, I work here. I should probably make sure I at least try it. And that is something so simple, but it's actually proven to be really useful for me. And that's the vertical toolbar. In Logos 10, you can, in your settings, go over to right at the top, you'll see application toolbar location. It has always been at the top, and that is what it looks like all the way across the top. But I am really what's the word I want? I'm really fastidious about my screen space. So what I found is now that I can put it on the left, and this is what it looks like expanded, or this is what it looks like contracted. You can go back and forth if you need to. I just end up having more space to do reading. It's more important that I have up and down space for reading than it is that I have left to right space. I am often working in a dual column setup. I'll set that up in just a second. All right, it decided not to do what I wanted. Here we go. Here's my dual column setup that I'm usually using. So I have found that the vertical toolbar is really, really helpful. Even something as simple as now I have a button just for my top Bible, which just happens to be the ESV. Don't read too much into that. You who know my work on Bible translation. I have a bunch also. You can't see them in the toolbar right now because I have my screen zoomed in, but a bunch of Bibles and other books that I am either reading right now or kind of want to, get to soon. And something as simple as this little button to close all panels that we've had for a little while, but having it really accessible there in the vertical toolbar, I have found to be really beneficial. I also wanted to talk real quick about something that is real quick, and that is the speed of Logos 10. I am a daily user of Logos, and I teach the Bible, and I'm teaching in Sunday school, and frequently at my church. I'm in the Spanish ministry. I'm teaching there. I'm in the young adult ministry. I'm in the teen ministry. Various things. Every once in a while, I get to preach, and that's a real privilege. And I just need my software and my computer to do what I tell it to do when I tell it to do it. Kind of like my kids, and unfortunately, all too often, like my kids and like I was when I was a kid, I have struggled with this over the years, that my computers don't always do what I tell them to do when I tell them to do it. And Logos, in particular, frequently would give me the spinning beach ball on my Mac. So I begged and pleaded, and I wasn't the only one, let's do whatever we can to make Logos faster. And I come to new features with some skepticism. I want to see, does it actually work? I'm not just going to market something that doesn't work. But for the first time I can remember, I'm not seeing the spinning beach ball. Logos is operating very quickly for me on my M1 Silicon Mac. And let's remember, those have been out for about 3 years now. So a lot of people who run Macs, and I'm not as familiar with the Windows platform, will see a massive, noticeable difference in speed. And we're going to go
I think
speeding right through. Go ahead, Jason.
I think that's the trend. I mean, that's like what everybody has been talking about.
Yeah.
On our social media or when we get emails and comments and reviews. I mean, the speed is like the number one comment that we get back. Yeah.
Didn't you see a comment recently from a user that was noticing that? I know when we were first sending this out to beta testers, that's what they were noticing too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just like just so much faster. I don't know the stats on how much faster it is. That's something that we should check out. But yeah, it's insane.
In a way, like, I wish I had the stats too, and I tried to get something definitive from our dev team, but Logos is updated on a bi-weekly basis, and so that's sort of a moving target. It's always, on their radar to be aware of the speed. I can just give it from a user perspective. I used to have the spinning beach ball. I don't get the spinning beach ball. Logos
beach ball speed test.
Does what I want, and when I ask it to do it. And then the other last feature I wanted to mention is the auto-translate feature. And there are some things that, it's not that big a deal if you end up needing to go to the web to do certain tasks. We all do that. And for a while there, I was actually turning to Google to do some of my Bible searches, in part because of speed. With Logos 10 now and the way I've got it tricked out, I am back to using Logos to do even my simplest Bible searches, which I'm also appreciative of. But another thing that I used to have to go online to do, and I'm going to make it fill the whole screen, is translating. So if I came across, this is where I always came across untranslated Latin. And yes, I took Latin in 8th grade, and yes, I got a perfect score on the final, I'll have you know, but I can't honestly read it. You can pick out individual words in Scriptura Sancta, has to be in Holy Scripture. But I wasn't really getting this whole thing in Charles Hodge's systematic. He's the one who often I ran into. And now within Logos, I mean, isn't this so cool? You just select it, and if you have your translation bar open, you'll get a nice translation. And I looked this over, and my Latin is good enough that I could tell, wow, yes, this is what it's saying. And I didn't get any awkward, like, Latinlish or Eng-Latin, It translated it accurately for me. And that auto-translate feature is one of the, Logos 10 features that, I'm actually still using. It's on my radar, and I think our users have found that to be the case too. Now, Jason, I think you've got some stuff to show off. What do you want to show off for us?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing on the translate, it's like built into it. So if you do a whole chunk of text, a paragraph or two, or whatever you end up doing, you can copy and paste that whole chunk of text to anything. And so there's a copy feature built right into it, which is very nice if you're putting something into a paper or doing some work that way. So, and then Mark, I don't know if you want to camp out on it now, but the print library catalog is something else that...
Yeah, I was going to talk about that too. Thank you, Jason. Okay. The print library catalog, I want to show how I've been using that. I have my library open up here. No, I don't. Where did my library window go? Let's just open it up real quick. Okay, within your library, and by the way, I hope that you have prioritized books too. That's something else that I know a lot of users haven't realized they need to do. But I have especially some expensive books on my physical bookshelf that maybe I got as gifts or for various reasons haven't wanted to also buy in Logos. And usually because of that expense. And one of them is the Reformed Dogmatic set from Herman Bavinck. And you know what? This is really bad. I'm now wondering, did I actually also buy it in Logos? I can't remember. But there was a time when this first came out when I haven't bought it yet in Logos. Now everybody knows. This little symbol right here says that this book is part of my print library catalog. And the basic idea is you can go into Add to Library, and you can add any book that's in Logos, which is tens of thousands, add it to your print library. So actually, it just so happens I do have this book, Reformed Ethics. I only have volume 1, so I'm going to add that to my print library. And now, whenever I do a search, let's say I can search a collection of just, stuff written by Herman Bavinck, or search my entire library, search whatever category that book will land in, I'll get results that come from that book in my Logos search. and then I can go to my shelf and grab it down, which makes my paper books, which I'm afraid often collect dust because I'm just so much on the go, makes my paper books even more valuable to me. And I have one of my best friends who is a real amazing bibliophile and reader said that he wrote an article about this for the Logos blog that maybe we can link to. He said that he's finding the same thing, that suddenly resources that he would not have thought to turn to, or that he realistically wouldn't have, gone to the shelf and pulled it down and opened up the index and looked through all of the, relevant areas for whatever he's searching on. He's actually using those books because Logos is finding the right place there for him. That's the print library catalog.
Yeah. And if you're watching this and you haven't checked out the print library catalog, it actually shows you the page number usually of the hit in your search results. And so when Mark did that quick search, it actually shows the specific page number. It's not just like go grab that book off the shelf and I hope you find it in there somewhere. It will pull the specific page number of that hit, and you can open it up to that page, which is that's just absolutely incredible that it can do that.
And it seems like our users are still talking about that one. Number of months later, the print library catalog got them really excited, and I'm not hearing people disappointed. Like they're still using it and excited about it.
Right. Cool. Well, let me take it. So there's some things that I want to run through with L10. I think that this feature, there's been a handful of updates, but it's not something that people are talking about all the time. I don't think they realize that it's even there, or it's oft forgotten is what I mean. And so the web app is where one thing I want to point out. The web app has had a number of improvements over with L10, but then a few improvements since then. And that's what I want to make sure that I point out. And so on the web app now, if you go to app.logos.com, you can access your own library within the web app and just log in the same way as you would a desktop app. And you've got access to resources and tools that are inside of your library. But there's now quick actions. And so if you check out the left side here, there are quick actions that you can open up commentaries or resources that the app is suggesting based on what you use or what are most used in that scenario. And then something else is the ability to share a link with someone else who is not a Logos user. And so if I jump to my Bible real fast, I'm just going to open up a translation here. It doesn't matter which translation, right, Mark? So if I open up this reference here, and if I grab if I right click on it, I should have my content menu here, and I come down to sharing this link. If I share it with a URL and I send this, say I want to text this to someone, I can text this URL to anybody, and it opens up inside of app.logos.com, and they don't have to have a login, they don't have to be signed in, they can see exactly this reference in its context there within that app.logos.com that I just talked about there a second ago. So that's
as long as
go ahead.
That book is available in the free version of the app, which for the common, evangelical English Bible translations is likely to be the case, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think there's 182,000 resources right now in the library, if I remember right. So, yeah. So I'm going to move on to one other piece that I think this was like the home run, I think, of L10 was the improvement on Factbook. That's my own opinion. Factbook was it L9 that it was released? Mark, you may know.
Ooh, I should know this.
There's a pop quiz.
Before that, but okay. I don't recall.
Well, pretend we knew. We can just edit back that part. So the Factbook is really just like an index card of information that pulls from all of your resources within your library. And so if I open up the Factbook here, looks like a specific event that I searched last, Jesus turns water into wine. And if I wanted to just search, maybe Jesus would be a pretty large example. Would have a whole bunch of things. But wine, on the other hand, Factbook gives me just this overview of everything that's happening in my library. Factbook tags, however, are now baked into your resources. And so we've added this Factbook tag visual filter. So if you're reading through the ESV and you're in Luke 2, like I am here, I can turn on the visual filter, and now all of my Factbook items, like I just searched wine, all of my Factbook items have this little blue underline here. And as I hover over them, I get a preview of what's happening in my Factbook. If I click on it, it's going to open up the Factbook itself. Like if I click on Angel here, Angel of the Lord opens up in Factbook. So Factbook tags has another layer to it, though. So Factbook tags also gives you a handful of subcategories. And so if you're reading through your Bible, in this case, and you don't care to see anybody but people, I can deselect all of these. I'll keep the underlines showing. I can deselect all of these, and any references to people are still underlined. And I can quickly jump over to my Factbook and get that information there. Personally, I don't usually keep pronouns as underlined. I think that's a little too much, but that's just my own opinion. And there's a lot of times where I'll turn off the underlines because it's just a little distracting. But I'll keep that Factbook tag visual filter turned on, so I can still hover over and get that visual filter Factbook response there. So Factbook tags that's something that everyone's still talking about. I use it all the time. Mark, were you going to say something? Sorry.
That's part of one of my principles for all Bible software usage, and especially Logos, is that, once you amass a library of any size, it can become unmanageable. You're not seeing physical books on a shelf, so you're even forgetting what you have, and you're looking for information filters that can troll through your library, like, I don't know, a net that catches only dolphins and not tuna, something like that. And that's what powerful tools like the Factbook do. So whereas with my Amazon Kindle, and yes, I do still read Amazon Kindle, I can't do that. I can't search my entire library. I can only search one book at once. And there's no tagging like that. I can only search for words. It does this little, what do they call it thing? I can't remember, where they would show an X-ray of the whole book, but still that's based on word searching. All of the tagging that we've done, especially in Bible texts, but also throughout your almost whole Logos library. There are some books that have not been tagged, and we distinguish them that way. But the vast majority of the time, especially again in the Bible, because we've done that tagging, I have a richer way of doing an information filter and finding the stuff that I need.
Yeah, and even your last point made me think of something that's worth mentioning. If it's not tagged, we have the ability also to pop in here and create our own tags. And so what used to be called, I think, community tags is now created by users tags. So let me check the drop down here once more. So we have a created by users section here. And if there's something that's not tagged and you're like, oh, I wish that was tagged, or I want to be able to refer back to it at a different time, at a later time. Like this was an example that came across while I was prepping, even for this demo here, was the word clothes right here, swaddling cloths, is not tagged. And so I could right click on this. I could use this tool right here, the content tool, and I can hop over here and add a Factbook tag myself to it. So I can have that tag in that resource, and then other users can also see that tag that was done here if they have that visual filter turned on for created by users. So that's another way that we're adding tags to resources. So cool. Before we wrap up, a couple notable mentions that we aren't able to just dedicate all the time in the world to. Advanced timeline. And so if you're a timeline user, you can see more events, but you can also dig down in more detail. So there's filters and navigation options that are baked into the advanced timeline tool. And then the mobile app was also a big talking point back in October. And that's really, I think, one of the pieces that a lot of Logos users are talking about still, is the ability to draw on the screen of your iPad, not like with a crayon, but like mark up your text and see different truths or find different points within the text that way by marking it up and sharing those markups. And then improve listening on the go was another. Multiple resources open at one time on your tablet screen was another. And then the Sermon Manager made its way to the iPad. So there's a lot of improvements on mobile apps. Mark, anything I'm forgetting? I feel like that was a list that we'd put together, but I'm sure it sparked some thoughts for you.
You briefly mentioned it, but yesterday, and I'm part of a book club, and I admittedly didn't quite finish the book that we were supposed to discuss. And but I was driving, and I can do this. I can really focus on audio. I was actually using the mobile app to just read the book to me, and that's something that I plan to use even more in the future. But it's just such a time saver for me. I feel like in a busy life, I want to get through more books, not just internet articles, and certainly not just social media feeds. And so the ability to just hit play, like right in the mobile app on this book that we were all going through, it just got me through more of it with the available time that I had. I really enjoyed that feature.
Speech to text.
Right.
Ability to listen through your books kind of turns any book that you have into an audiobook, which is pretty cool.
And that came out with L10 on mobile.
So yeah, there's a lot here. Again, we wanted to highlight the pieces of L10 or Logos 10 that are still being used, still being talked about, still being hyped up by our users. And so I hope that this was helpful for us to just set some time aside and share a few demonstration pieces and to highlight some L10 release items. But again, right now we have, I think it's the largest sale we've ever had on L10, but up to 25% off plus additional for first-time upgraders, first-time purchasers. So go check out the sale at logos.com and make that upgrade if you haven't yet, of course. And then if you have any questions, or if there's something that we demoed, if we demonstrated here and like you have more questions about that, how to use it, or it's something that you'd like to learn more about, then drop a comment in underneath the screen here, underneath the video, and we'll try to answer those questions for you.
Great. Thanks for asking me to join you here, Jason, and users out there.
Sure.
We're here to serve you. We're here to serve the church. That's our mission. So please do pop your questions into that chat. Thanks.